A lot of veterans walk into a C&P exam thinking the same thing. If I talk about my worst day, the examiner is going to think I am exaggerating. So they describe how they feel right now, on that day, in that room. Maybe it is a decent day. Maybe the pain is manageable. Maybe they slept okay. Maybe they drove themselves there, and they walk out thinking they gave an honest answer. But here is the problem. That exam room captures one moment. Your condition lives in your daily life. And if the only thing the examiner sees is your decent day, your record may not reflect your real functional loss. Not because you lied, not because you faked anything, not because you did anything wrong, but because the record only captured part of the picture. In this video, I'm going to walk you through how to explain your worst days, your flare-ups, your bad days, and your functional loss clearly, honestly, and specifically. Not so you sound worse than you are. So you are understood accurately, there's a difference, and that difference matters. This is video 3 in the C&P Exam Battlefield SOP series. In video 1, we covered the mission. A C&P exam is not a regular doctor appointment. It is evidence collection, and your job is to brief the examiner, not perform for them. In video 2, we covered the range of motion trap. The goal is not maximum motion. The goal is accurate motion. Stop where the limitation begins. Name it clearly. This video builds on both of those because stopping at pain is only part of the mission. The other part is explaining what happens on the days when the exam room cannot show the full picture. By the end of this video, you will have a clear framework for explaining your pattern. Normal day, bad day, trigger, frequency, duration, functional loss. That framework will help you communicate clearly and honestly without exaggerating and without leaving the full picture on the table. The two traps. Before we get into the framework, I want to name the two traps I see veterans fall into. The first trap is minimizing. This is the veteran who says, "I'm fine," who downplays the bad days because they do not want to sound dramatic, who describes only how they feel on exam day, and leaves out the 3 days last week when they could barely get out of bed. This veteran is not lying. They are protecting their credibility the only way they know how. But here is what happens. The examiner documents what the veteran described, the record shows a manageable, moderate condition, and the VA rates based on that record. That is where veterans lose ground. Not because the condition is not real, but because the record did not capture the full reality. The record captures what is communicated, not what is felt silently. The second trap is going too far the other way. This is the veteran who uses language like, "I can't do anything," or "every single day is the worst day of my life," or "I am completely non-functional." When that description does not match the records, when it does not match how the veteran appeared in the exam room, when it does not match what their doctor wrote, when it does not match what they told their last provider, the examiner may document an inconsistency. An inconsistency hurts credibility, and credibility is part of the record. Neither trap helps. There is a better way, and the better way is not a magic phrase. It is an honest, specific, organized explanation of your pattern. The exam room problem. Here is the situation you are walking into. A C&P exam usually lasts somewhere between 20 and 45 minutes, maybe a little longer, maybe shorter. The examiner sees you once, on one day, in one moment. They do not see you on the days when you cannot get out of bed. They do not see you after a 3-mile walk that locks up your back for 2 days. They do not see you at 2 a.m. when the pain woke you up again. They do not see you avoiding the stairs, or skipping a family event because you knew you could not handle it, or sitting out of the yard work that your body used to handle without thinking. The examiner sees a snapshot. Your condition is not a snapshot. It is a pattern. And if your condition has good days and bad days, if it fluctuates, if it flares, if repeated use makes it worse, if bad days look very different from exam day, that pattern has to be communicated because the examiner cannot document what you do not tell them. And the VA cannot rate what the evidence does not clearly show. The examiner cannot document what you do not communicate. What functional loss actually means. Before we get into the framework, let me explain what I mean by functional loss. Functional loss is not just pain. Functional loss is what the condition prevents you from doing. It is not just "my back hurts." It is "my back hurts, and because of that, I cannot stand at the kitchen counter long enough to cook a meal." It is not just "my knee acts up." It is My knee acts up, and because of that, I cannot go up and down stairs safely. I avoid uneven ground, and by the end of the day, it is swollen and stiff. It is not just my shoulder bothers me, it is my shoulder bothers me, and because of that, I cannot reach into a cabinet without pain. I stopped doing overhead work, and after I push through it, I pay for it the rest of the day. The VA does not just rate conditions based on a diagnosis, they rate based on how that condition limits your ability to move, work, sleep, care for yourself, and live your life. That is the evidence that matters, and that is what needs to be communicated clearly. The worst day framework. Now, here's the framework I want you to take into that exam room. 6 things, plain English, no medical jargon required. Part 1, normal day. What does your condition look like on a typical day? Not your best day, not your worst day, your baseline. Example, on a normal day, I can stand for about 20 minutes before I have to sit down. I manage okay, but I am always aware of the pain. It is usually a 4 or 5 out of 10. Part 2, bad day. What happens on a bad day? How is it different from normal? What can you not do? Example, on a bad day, the pain spikes. I can barely get through basic chores without sitting down. Sometimes I cannot stand long enough to shower comfortably. The pain is a 7, 8, sometimes higher. This is not exaggeration if it is true. This is the pattern. Part 3, trigger. What causes the bad day or makes the condition worse? Activity, weather, sleep, stress, repeated use. Example, after I walk more than a block or two, my back tightens. After I bend repeatedly, I have to stop and rest. Rain and cold weather seem to make it worse. If I push through a busy day, the next morning is usually worse. Part 4, frequency. How often does it happen? Once a week? 2 to 3 times a week? Multiple days per month? This is not about making it sound more frequent than it is. This is about giving the examiner a measurable pattern. I am fine is not measurable. This happens 2 to 3 times per week is measurable. The VA rating system uses frequency. Give them something to work with. Part 5, duration. When a bad day or flare-up hits, how long does it last? A few hours, a full day, 2 to 3 days. Example for back pain. When my back locks up, it usually takes 1 to 2 days before I can move normally again, sometimes longer. Example for migraines. When a migraine hits, I have to lie down in a dark room. I cannot function. I cannot look at a screen. I cannot drive. I cannot do anything useful. It usually lasts most of a day, sometimes into the next day. Part 6, functional loss. What can you not do when the bad day or flare up happens? Be specific. Connect it to real life. Example, when my knee flares, I cannot do stairs safely. I hold the railing on both sides. I have stopped going to certain places because I know the terrain will get me. I cannot walk across a parking lot without pain. After a long day, the swelling starts, and I have to elevate it. Example for mental health. On bad days, I isolate. I do not answer the phone. I cancel plans. I cannot be around people without feeling overwhelmed. My sleep is disrupted. I wake up irritable, and I cannot handle normal responsibilities the way I could before. Normal day, bad day, trigger, frequency, duration, functional loss. That is the framework. Write it down before you go in. You do not need to memorize a script. You need to know your own pattern, what good looks like. Honest examples. Let me show you the difference between a vague explanation, an exaggerated explanation, and an honest, specific explanation. These are not scripts. These are not magic phrases. They are examples of what clear, honest communication sounds like. Use your own words. The point is clarity, not memorization. Back condition, vague. My back is really bad, potentially problematic. I can never move. I am completely bedridden every single day. If that is not actually true, honest and specific. On a normal day, my back pain is manageable at about a 4 or 5, but after standing more than 20 minutes, bending repeatedly, or walking any real distance, it tightens up and I have to stop. On bad days, the pain spikes to an 8 or 9, and I cannot do basic tasks around the house. That happens 2 or 3 times per week. When it gets bad, it usually takes 1 to 2 days to settle back down. Knee condition. Vague. My knee bothers me sometimes. Honest and specific. My knee may look okay on the exam today, but I want you to understand what happens in real life. After stairs, after walking across a parking lot, after repeated movement, it becomes unstable. It swells. I hold the rail going downstairs because I do not fully trust it. On flare up days, I cannot walk without a noticeable limp. That happens multiple times per week. Shoulder condition, vague. I can't really lift my arm. Honest and specific. I can raise my arm in this exam, but I want to be clear about what happens after I use it. Overhead work causes pain that does not go away quickly. After I push through it, I pay for it the rest of the day and sometimes the next day. I have stopped doing anything overhead at home because I know what follows. I sleep on my other side because the shoulder wakes me up at night. Migraines. Vague. I get bad headaches. Honest and specific. I am not having a migraine today, but I want to make sure you understand what happens when I do. When a migraine hits, I have to lie down in a dark room. I cannot function. I cannot look at a screen. I cannot drive. I cannot hold a conversation. It usually lasts most of a day, sometimes into the next. That happens roughly 2 to 3 times per month, and I am wiped out for a day or two after each one. Mental health condition, vague. I have bad days, honest and specific. I know I may appear calm in this room right now, but this is not what every day looks like. On bad days, I isolate completely. I do not answer the door. I do not answer the phone. I cancel plans. I cannot be around people without feeling overwhelmed. I sleep poorly. I wake up multiple times a night and I cannot get back down. When the bad stretch hits, it usually lasts 2 to 3 days, and I struggle to handle normal responsibilities. Notice what all of those examples have in common. They acknowledge good days. They do not claim every day is the worst day. They give the examiner a pattern, not just a symptom. They connect the condition to real functional loss, and they do not require the examiner to guess. That is the mission. Repeated use. The part most veterans miss here is another part of this that veterans often leave out. Your condition does not always show up in the first movement. You may be able to bend once. You may be able to raise your arm once. You may be able to take a short walk. But after repeated use, after bending several times, after walking a real distance, after holding your arm overhead for more than a moment, the joint stiffens, the pain increases, the weakness begins. And what you could do once in a quiet exam room is no longer what you can do in real life. That is called repeated use limitation. And it matters because life does not ask you to bend one time and stop. Life asks you to unload groceries, get in and out of a car, pick up laundry off the floor, bend over a sink, get dressed, tie your shoes, reach under a counter, sit at a table for an hour, walk across a store. Repeated use. Not one clean motion in a controlled room. So if repeated use makes your condition worse, say that. Not, yeah, sometimes it gets worse if I overdo it. Specific, after bending several times, my back tightens and I have to sit down or lie flat. Specific, if I use the shoulder for anything overhead, it starts burning within a few minutes and the strength drops. Specific, my knee moves okay once, but after stairs or walking any distance, it gets unstable and I guard it. That is not exaggeration. That is context. And context is what the record needs. What this is not, I want to be very clear about something. This video is not about making your condition sound worse than it is. It is not about rehearsing exaggerated answers. It is not about describing every day as the worst day of your life if that is not true. It is not about performing symptoms. It is not about tricking the examiner. And it is definitely not about faking anything. Do not exaggerate. Do not fake symptoms. Do not describe a rare extreme event as if it happens every week when it does not. Do not stop a movement early just because you think it will help your claim. If your records, your exam behavior, and your history do not line up, the examiner may note an inconsistency. An inconsistency hurts credibility, and credibility is part of the record. Honesty goes both directions. Do not minimize what is real. Do not exaggerate what is not. The goal is not a better record. The goal is not a worse record. The goal is an accurate record. Because the VA can only rate what the evidence clearly and honestly supports. Do not exaggerate. Do not minimize. Brief the truth clearly. Before you walk in, know your pattern. Here is what I want you to do before you go into that exam room. Know your pattern, not a script, not a rehearsed performance, your pattern. What does a normal day look like for this condition? What does a bad day look like? What triggers the bad days? How often do they happen? How long do they last? What can you not do when a bad day hits? Write it down. Plain English, no medical jargon, just your honest description of your own life. Because when the examiner asks how you are doing, the honest answer is probably not just about today. The honest answer is your pattern. And the only way to communicate your pattern clearly is to know it before you walk in the door. Do not walk in cold. Do not wing it. Know your terrain. 48-hour challenge. Here is your 48-hour challenge. If you have a C&P exam coming up, or you think one may be coming, I want you to sit down and write out your pattern. For each condition you are being examined for, write down what a normal day looks like, what a bad day looks like, what triggers the bad day, how often it happens, how long it lasts, what you cannot do when it happens. Keep it plain English, keep it honest, keep it specific, not, it is really bad. Specific. On a bad day, the pain spikes to an 8 or 9. It happens 2 to 3 times per week. It lasts 1 to 2 days, and I cannot stand long enough to cook a meal or sleep more than 2 hours at a stretch. That is a pattern. That is what the record needs. This is not about scripting fake answers. This is not about rehearsing exaggeration. This is about knowing your own condition clearly enough to explain it without minimizing and without going too far. Do it in the next 48 hours. You will walk into that room better prepared. Let me give you the short version. A C&P exam captures one moment. Your condition lives in your daily life. If your condition has flare-ups, bad days, repeated use limitations, or days that look very different from exam day, that needs to be communicated clearly and honestly. The examiner cannot document what you do not tell them. The VA cannot rate what the evidence does not clearly show. Use the 6-part framework: normal day, bad day, trigger, frequency, duration, functional loss. Be specific, be honest, be consistent, do not exaggerate, do not minimize, brief the truth clearly. Your worst day matters, but it has to be explained in context. Not performed, not faked, not minimized, explained. Accuracy is the mission. Now, you have done the work. You walked into that exam room prepared. You communicated your pattern honestly and clearly. But the mission is not finished when you walk out of that room. The next step is one that most veterans skip completely. After the exam, the examiner fills out a form called a DBQ, a Disability Benefits Questionnaire. That document goes back to the VA rater, and the rater uses it to make a decision. If you can access that DBQ before the VA issues a final decision, you need to know how to read it. What was documented, what may be missing, what could affect the outcome before the decision is made. The next video in the series covers exactly that. It is called Post-Exam Recon: How to Read Your DBQ Before the VA Makes a Decision. Because the exam room is only one part of the battlefield, what happens after the exam matters too. Before you file, appeal, or request an increase, grab the free VA Claim Readiness Checklist and other resources at veteranclaimsmadeeasy.com/resources. Start there, get organized, move forward with more clarity. The link is in the description. My goal is never to mislead, only to empower you with accurate, honest, and actionable information. Semper Fidelis, and God bless.